Wednesday, December the 13th, 2017, to you. Last week, Russian President Mr. Vladimir Putin said he will seek re-election in next March election. During their campaigns, some politicians like inaugurating public infrastructure, while others prefer making bombastic promises. Evidence suggests that Russian leaders opt proclaiming war victories even if such statements are not utterly accurate. Mr. Putin made a surprise visit to Syria this Monday before continuing his journey to Egypt and Turkey. He was welcomed at Russia's Khmeimim airbase by Syrian President Mr. Bashar al-Assad, a head of state receiving a visitor at a foreign military base. Mr. Putin took the occasion to proclaim Russia's victory over ISIS. Also, he announced that Russia would withdraw its troops. "I have taken a decision. A significant part of the Russian troop contingent located in Syria is returning back home to Russia," Mr. Putin said. "You are victorious, and you are going home to your families, parents, wives, children, and friends," he told pilots at the airbase. The Russian leader also inspected the troops, who goose-stepped to the tune of a popular Soviet-era song about the Great Patriotic War, which is how Russians called World War II. However, I could listen to Mr. Putin in a calm mood. First, he did not include a roadmap in his withdrawal announcement. All political decisions, if serious, ought to be precise on what we are doing, where, when, and how. Russia would have up to 10,000 troops and private contractors deployed in Syria, according to Russian military expert Mr. Pavel Feigenhauer. We do not know how many of those troops will be back home. On the other hand, Mr. Putin said that both Khmeimim and Russian naval base in Tartus would keep operating and promised further strikes if terrorists raise their head again. Secondly, to determining how victorious a player is depends on the fulfillment of its objective. Russia's admitted goal in Syria was to ensure the continuity of Mr. al-Assad's allied regime. Well, Mr. Putin, mission accomplished. Syrian opposition is obliterated, like the whole country. More than 340,000 people have died since the start of the uprisings in 2011. Syria must be built again, and I do not believe Russia can afford helping Damascus. Rescuing Mr. al-Assad has been an expensive task. Currently, Moscow spends 5.9% of its GDP in defense. I am afraid that Russia will have to partly forsake Mr. al-Assad. Besides, Mr. Putin would not like another Afghanistan. He is a savvy gambler. As such, he must know when to withdraw. If we only know that too, the world is still on.